They definitely need to.
Yep.
Yeah, nice stuff to join us. Outstanding play-by-play guy for the Santa Cruz Warriors, Kevin Danna. How are you today, Kev?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Enjoying the sun after that rainy week last week here in the Bay Area, and excited for my guys PBJ and Killian Hayes. I say my guys, but I really enjoyed watching them both. I know we're about to get into them, but I really like these pickups for Sacramento.
Well, you may be excited, Kevin, but I can't imagine anybody being as excited as Alan is. So I'll let him take over. He's real. Seriously, he is pumped about this.
All right, Kev, let's start here. Between these two guys, and we're going to get into both of them, obviously, but when you look at both of these guys, who should Kings fans look at as maybe a more realistic situation for, hey, maybe this guy could turn into something, and you can't say both of them. You got to pick one.
Well, the resume would tell you Killian Hayes because he's averaged 10 points and 6 assists over the course of an NBA season, albeit for a really bad Detroit Pistons team. There's something there, though, with Patrick Baldwin Jr. I just think he could put it together. And I was looking up some game notes from the Warriors. I'm trying to find these game notes. All right. Warriors game notes from when he was a rookie. Patrick Baldwin Jr. was listed at 6'9" and 220. He's now 7 feet tall. He's grown 3 inches since he entered the NBA. And the shooting stroke is so sweet. He's filled his body a little bit. He looks a little stronger. He's played with a lot more confidence. Now I'm watching him against G League competition, not NBA competition. But there was a stretch there for a playoff team his rookie season where he was in the rotation for the Warriors and he was shooting like 38% from 3 in the NBA. I like this guy. I mean, I would take Killian Hayes as the more sure bet, but I know I'm waffling here, but I'm very, very intrigued by PBJ.
Kevin Danna with us, Santa Cruz Warriors G League play-by-play legend. Kevin, which skills or stats would you say translate best from the G League to the NBA? When we're trying to figure out if this guy's going to be good at the next level, what are the numbers that tend to be the most reliable?
I mean, everyone looks towards the scoring, and if you could just dominate from a points per game perspective, that does help. I tend to look more at like how a guy can fit into a team concept. Like, is a guy making the extra effort plays, and is that coupled with the athleticism and the length necessary to play at the NBA level to be a rotation guy, which is why the size of PBJ really intrigues me. Now, for the scoring perspective, PBJ and Killian Hayes both averaged career highs this year in the G League. And Killian Hayes, he was like decent for the Long Island Nets last year. I mean, he put up good numbers, but not as good as you'd expect for a guy who was a lottery pick just a few years prior. This year with the Cleveland Charge, he dominated. He had a few 30-point triple-doubles this year. I'm looking at notes I took. The first one was from a game on November 30th where I wrote, Killian Hayes has turned into a dynamo scorer in the G. Dropped 40 on Windy City on Friday, had 24 midway through the third of this one. It was a blowout. It finished with 26. Announce crew was all over his lack of defensive intensity. So maybe that wasn't the best thing, his lack of defensive intensity, when teams score 130-plus in the G League. But, hey, I don't know how big of an issue that would be for Sacramento this year. The second note I took from him came from a December 13th game. Killian Hayes looks really good this year, 30 points, 10 assists. This is from a game of Cleveland won by 30, his third triple-double. He should get another shot in the NBA. He's still, 24, 25 years old? I was too lazy to look up the fact that he was indeed just 24 years old. Wow. So there are some guys in the G League where they step on the court and you're like, this guy doesn't belong here. He's too good. Maybe he's a 4A player. Maybe he's a guy who could be a 10th man, an 8th man in the NBA. Like Killian Hayes was one of those guys, and PBJ was too, where they stepped on a G League court and I'm like, they look different than the other guys. Mm-hmm. Some things do not match. These guys do not match with the other guys on the court. They're just too good.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kev. Well, obviously, Killian Hayes went, 7th, and PBJ went late in the first. We're talking about the good, but the reality is they are in the G League and they have bounced around a bit. What are the issues? You brought up some of the defense with Killian Hayes, and we know that shooting has been a little off and on. What are the issues with these guys? Why haven't they been able to stick in a rotation quite yet?
Yeah, I'll start with PBJ. He can kind of float through games at times where he looks awesome. I heard a quote. I talked with Mark Daignault. This was not to name drop here, but I'm going to name drop. I talked with Mark Dagnall. This is when he was still in the G League, or he was an assistant with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he said there are some guys that look like they can do a ton but don't do a whole lot on the court. And there are guys who don't look like they can do anything, but it can actually be really competitive. Sometimes PBJ falls into the former, where you just look at this guy. He's 7 feet tall. He's got the sweetest shooting stroke. If you squint, you put it under a microscope, and then you put a telescope, the power of the Hubble Space Telescope. You can kind of see inklings of a Kevin Durant just by the way his body is and how he shoots. And like, man, if he really puts it together, he could be like this big-time wing scorer. It hasn't happened because maybe he hasn't been as assertive in the past. Now, his rookie year, he's playing with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole. Maybe not the best place to assert yourself. But even in college at Milwaukee, he didn't put up great numbers despite being like a mega recruit. You figure like a mega recruit would go and dominate at the mid-major level because he wanted to play for his dad. That would be the one thing I'd say with PBJ. Killian Hayes, yeah, if announcers are talking about your lack of defensive intensity, look, when I'm as a play-by-play guy, you have to really not try on defense for me to pick that up.
Maybe he is like D'Angelo Russell. You're right, Alan.
So, like, this is just one. It was the opposing team's broadcast on my notes that the broadcast crew is talking about his defense. And all good as he has been of a scorer in the G League this year, he shot 33% from three, which is, NBA average is now 37%, which is really high. But, like, you want someone who's at least in the mid-30s, especially if you're going to be coming off the bench in the NBA and you're not going to be the concerns I'd say for Killian Hayes.
Kevin Danna, nice enough to join us. He's the Santa Cruz Warriors. When the Warriors drafted Patrick Baldwin Jr., it was a late pick coming out of high school, went to play for his dad, got hurt, and didn't have a good freshman year, so they just thought, hey, this is the best chance we're going to get at somebody with this kind of pedigree. So they took him late when he was coming off of a really disappointing year that was partly injury influence. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you have that exactly correct. The thinking was, look, we're just coming off a title.
Yeah. Exactly
like you said. Hey, this guy, there's a 1 in 1,000 shot he could be Kevin Durant. Obviously, he's not Kevin Durant. But, he's got the mold. He's got that body. He had the high school pedigree to be that. Yeah. And there were times that year where he was in the rotation. He was a high-level player. Not for the whole season. He only played 31 games that year. But he showed enough in those 31 games because he spent a lot of it with the Santa Cruz Warriors, or a decent bit, to where he was part of, I want to say he was part of that trade, the Chris Paul trade.
Yeah.
I'm looking through his Real GM page right now. It's not showing that.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was that, wasn't it, Alan? And it was Jordan Poole, and it was actually Ryan Rollins.
Yeah.
And Ryan Rollins. Yeah. So for some reason, it's not showing up on his Real GM page, but he was good, and he showed enough in that year to be included in the Chris Paul trade, the Chris Paul Jordan Poole trade. Trace Jackson Davis was a part of it. It got really long and windy, but he was a part of it. And the Wizards wouldn't have just, they saw enough to say, yeah, we'll take him. So he wasn't like a complete throwaway.
Yeah, Kev, there's two situations here. Obviously, Killian Hayes was a top 7 pick, and Patrick Baldwin Jr. went at the end of the first round. We've been going back and forth. Whitey has been kind of, giving me a hard time saying, hey, what do you think these guys are going to be? And I don't necessarily think they're going to save the organization.
And then it doesn't help when Kevin says, Patrick Baldwin Jr. is the next Kevin Durant.
That's right. That's why we had to have Kevin on, because he gets it.
I know.
He gets it. But realistically, Kev, off the top of your head, you see so many guys come through and kind of graduate from the G League ranks. Can you think of a similar situation for either of these guys, either a top 10 pick or maybe a late first rounder that had to bounce around a little bit in the G League, found a spot and turned their career around a little bit, even to just be a rotation player? Any names off the top of your head?
Yeah, Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn was the number 5 pick in 2015, I want to say, with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Was known as this defensive dynamo at Providence. Really had zero offense from an NBA standpoint. Played himself out of the league, was in the G League for a little bit, and then played well enough in the G League to get called up by the Utah Jazz, was in their rotation for a year plus, I want to say, and made his way to the Clippers, and now he's a big-time rotation player for the L.A. Clippers. The three has come around a little bit. Like he's in, I want to say like 30s. He's been hanging around the low to mid-30s, but he has worked himself back to an NBA contract. The same could be said for Trey Burke. Trey Burke played himself out of the NBA, number 9 pick in 2013 with the Utah Jazz, played like 4 years, had a decent rookie year, and then through a stint or two in the G League, was able to get himself back, and for a while he was a part of the Mavericks rotation again. So those are a couple of guys that, I mean, they're different players for sure, and maybe not as applicable for PBJ as Killian Hayes, being they're both guards, but those are two guys that immediately come off the top of my head as guys who were able to kind of rehab their career in the G League and then have some more staying power in the NBA.
Interesting. Kevin, as long as we have you here, we'd love to tap into your expertise. You know, we are talking a lot here in Sacramento about the draft. The Kings will have a very high pick, it would appear. What can you share with us about how you have the top prospects ranked at this point? I know we still have a long ways to go, so we're not going to hold you to any of this because come tournament time, a lot of it can change. But how do you have the top players ranked at this point?
I mean, give me A.J. DeBonce or give me Death. I love this guy. I love this guy, and I love this guy some more. And I love Cam Boozer, too. I'm biased towards those two because I called their games, their AAU games, a couple of them. So I've had they've been on the back of my mind. The BYU head coach was a longtime G League guy, Kevin Young, so I always try to catch BYU games. AJ, he plays, he cares, and he's all about winning. There was the Oklahoma State head coach, I don't know what his name is, but he mentioned in a post-game press conference that after BYU beat the pants off Oklahoma State in the game, that a BYU player forgot to shake the Oklahoma State head coach's hand, and AJ made that BYU player go back and shake the Oklahoma State coach's hand in the handshake line. He's just that kind of guy. Now, as far as overall talent is concerned, Darren Peterson, I think, is by far the most skilled player, and I don't know exactly what's going on there, but when I see a guy and I'm not sure if he was pointing to the bench to say, take me out to Bill Self after hitting the three and scoring 23 points in 18 minutes, but when he's played a little over half the games and when he's on a minutes restriction at that age, that whether it's a lack of conditioning, a serious injury, the mysteriousness around it, I don't like that personally. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think he's the most talented player, but I love AJ DeBonce. I'm all about AJ. And then I'd go Cam, and then I'd go probably Darren Peterson, and I really like
There we go.
You had me. Yeah. Had me. Michael Brown Jr. might have something to say about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Michael, yeah. I saw him play SMU last week. I saw a little bit of that.
Oh, I see something there.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna pull up their. They've obviously made some moves recently. Mm-hmm. I mean, so Dexter Dennis has played in the NBA a little bit. Daquan Jeffries is probably the most NBA ready on the Stockton Kings roster. And I will say, since you mentioned Daquan Plowden, I have to shout out my guy Daquan. I saw something on Twitter where he had one of the top 5 longest takeoff dunks in the NBA this year. I mean, took off furthest away from the basket. He had a 10-foot, 6-inch launching spot away from the rim to take off for a dunk this year. So, look, his agent DMs me every now and then on Instagram, and we've gone back and forth. And he was saying that he was going to get some more time after the All-Star break, and that certainly has been the case after the trade deadline and All-Star break. He's playing a little more, which I love to see. I think there's something there. I know he hasn't put up great numbers, but
we like him.
I think. I like him. I like him a lot. He's about the right things, and he's super, super athletic. And like Killian Hayes and PBJ, I think these are guys who can be innings eaters for the Kings, if you will, as you play out the stretch of a season.
Kevin Danna, Santa Cruz Warriors, play-by-play. Thanks, Kev. We always appreciate it. Always enjoy catching up with you. Thanks, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks.